If it's Aussie and it rocks, it's right here. This is Triple M's Homegrown with Matty O.
Yeah, it's right around the country. That's 52 stations and on the brand new listener app. This is exciting. Probably one of the most in-demand guests we've had, and we can finally welcome him to the show. From Melbourne to the world, what a career. 15 singles in the top 40, just to name a few. So many hits.
You missed about, I caught you out.
You know him from Sherbet.
Summer love is like no other love.
Collaborating too.
Get lost because of that way you walk.
You know the song so well. One summer as the days go by. Could be one of the most popular Australian songs too. And new music as well. It is a pleasure to welcome Mr. Daryl Braithwaite to Triple M's Homegrown. How are you?
Thank you very much, Matty. Nice to be here.
When you look back at that body of work, starting, at Sherbet, does it feel like yesterday, or does it feel like, a lifetime ago?
Feels like a long time ago.
Yeah.
It really does. Because, you go back to, Sherbet started 1970.
Yeah.
So it's only been 53 years, so good.
Yeah. I was going to ask everyone this. Do you remember the first record you ever bought? Not like a kind of record that, you might have been listening to at home, family and friends. Do you remember the first record you went out and purchased?
I think it was Kathy Kirby, and it was, now I shouted from the highest hill, even told the golden daffodil that lasts. But I remember that and my brother, because I got a twin brother.
Hey, we got crowds
and we
here.
used to sing that.
Wow, that's incredible.
Back then, when we were very, very young, I suppose 8 to 12, we used to just listen to vinyl.
Yeah.
And probably music would come from our parents.
Yeah.
So we'd, because we wouldn't buy it at that early age.
Yeah, of course. And when did you start going out to shows and kind of experiencing it live?
Probably around about 17, 18, to clubs in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And Sydney as well, the Here over in North Sydney and all that sort of stuff, seeing bands like Max Merritt and La-Di-Dahs and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was so good.
And was it watching bands back then? I suppose, that was before my time as well, Chelsea, who's producing out there. Can you paint the picture of what it was like? Because there were gigs every night. Live music was really kind of happening. Was that really kind of the thrill of it that you wanted to be a part of, apart from making music?
I think it was. It was instigated too by, or helped greatly by the Liverpool sound, Beatles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which I think if you ask anyone that comes from that time period, that we feel as though we were very fortunate to have that period where music was more important then, I think, seemingly. And you could only hear it on the radio, maybe TV, and maybe Walkmans or stuff.
Yeah.
Going back. But it really was an exciting period. And we didn't have the internet then, obviously, and all that stuff. But there were whole things that happened, like the Vietnam War that influenced music that was coming along as well out of America. So it was a great time.
What I love about Sherbet songs is they're so infectious, and those choruses are so memorable.
You missed about, I caught you out.
I guess so. It's sort of...
well, it's hard when you're in the bubble, but as a fan, they really...
Oh, yeah. Well, even there's a story that I remember about Howzat. We'd nearly finished it, recording it up in Sydney, and a guy was out from England, a good friend of Roger Davies, who was our manager.
Yeah.
And we were doing Howzat at the time. Roger gave him a copy, unfinished, to take away and play in the next room. He came back after half an hour, said, that's going to be a hit in England.
No way.
And we thought, sure, we've heard that all before, for sure. And then, lo and behold, it It went to number 2 in England, which was great.
Absolutely. I think when, I look at Sherbet, they got the crowds, the accolades, sold out arenas, and there aren't too many people that hear this when they're in a band. Crowds chanting your name, and I even managed to track down some audio of a diehard Sherbet fan.
In those days, all the Sherbet fans used to hang out together and, we all sort of got to know each other. We'd camp outside the Hordern Pavilion and we'd all take our tape decks along with us and we'd listen to Sherbet music all night.
When Sherbet...
You kind of created your own little community there. I mean, that's pretty rare.
Well, it was... I guess that was the aim of it after a while, because you start off doing it because you love it and all that, and you still continue doing that.
Yeah.
And if you're fortunate enough to be successful, I guess that's all part of it. But very fortunate, I guess that we, as a band, really worked well together. The chemistry was really good, and for us to say together for basically all of us for I guess about 12, 13 years.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it was have to hand it to everyone in the band. It was great.
When you're in a bubble like that, do you feel like it's going to last forever? Like, do you ever think about like after the band?
No, not really. It was because obviously a situation like that came up when I had my first solo single, which was You're My World, and I remember, I think Alan may have even said to Roger, we'll have to, Roger, our manager, we'll have to watch Daryl, because he probably wanted to go off and do a solo career.
Yeah,
but
right.
That never came into my mind. It was just, as Clive Shakespeare, who put forward the proposal, he was the guitar player in Sherbet, he said, why don't you do a solo thing and we'll just see how it works.
Nice.
And it worked.
Yeah.
So it was like we had a 2-pronged attack.
Yeah.
I guess, in the end.
It was really interesting. I had Colin Hay from Men at Work in last week, and he was talking about his transition from Men at Work to his solo career. I'd just like to play you a grab from that.
There was a lot of challenges. I mean, it was very frustrating in many ways. Being on your own, when you you've been part of an industry for, 10 or 15 years, then all of a sudden they kind of seem to go, okay, well, you're done, you go off and sit on a beach or do whatever it is you want to do, but we're not really particularly interested anymore. So I just had to find my own audience, which is basically what I've done. Just try and, but in many ways, that's what the old band did as well. Really, we just found our own audience, or they found us. And
was that transition similar for you, or was it how did it kind of work with you going from Sherbet to solo?
I think the same thing. It's probably a bit lonely, obviously on your own, but it's you do get used to it and you adapt.
Yeah.
But it was, I look back and I think that it was so rewarding being in the band Sherbet and having that
experience,
that whole thing with Roger and the 5 of us. It was just, we could all be in a room, which is, this would apply to all bands, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Where you can look across the room and go, and they know time to go. It's just a thing. It's like, Cubs or whatever, Scouts or whatever, you're all together. It's a thing that comes with having been together for 10 years, I guess.
Absolutely. Now, my dad, Paul O'Gorman.
Yes.
And he asked to bring this up. He likes to think, he's been telling us for years, that he might have had a small hand in this song coming together.
Of course he would. Of course he would. I think he was the one that sent it to me. And he would have sent, and I remember this specifically because, to your listeners, it was on a thing called a cassette, which is a bit of plastic, maybe 4 inches long, whatever.
Yeah.
And it came from Paul, your dad, and there were 2 songs on there. One was As the Days Go By and the other one was All I Do.
Mm.
And lo and behold, I ended up recording both of them, and As the Days was the first single, and then All I Do was the second.
Yeah.
So it was just, but As the Days Go By, when I first heard it, written by Ian Thomas from Canada, I thought, it's just like one of those things when you hear a song, you go, oh my God, how good is this?
Yeah.
And of course, we recorded it, and that was the first single off Edge. And
Okay.
if that hadn't worked, well, probably who knows what would have happened. But it was so good. And now, even playing it now, I just love it because the people, they sing.
I was going to say, like, I've been to a few of your gigs, and obviously, if you don't follow Daryl on the socials, you need to do it. His socials are absolutely incredible. And what I love about watching your gigs is that you seem to be, you're getting the next generation of fans across as well. How special is that for you as a performer to see, younger kids, singing your songs that, they've obviously grown up on from their parents and things like that?
Yeah, it's a little weird.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's something that is really endearing because you see them, and you know that I guess they're liking it because they like the song. It's sort of, and maybe the stuff that we as a band that I'm in now, that we give off on stage, because it's that'd be part of it as well. But it's not forced on them. It's just sort of like, okay, here it is, and this is what we do, and if it works, it works. But yeah, the young people are they really raise your spirits. It's sort of like, because I'm 74 now. You think, my God, is this happening, so to speak? And you think, yep, it is. And how do you accept it? Well, you just do, and you just think that you're lucky.
Yeah. How do you keep your voice in such good condition?
Don't know.
Like, what do you actually do for that? Because it's crazy,
don't
man.
smoke, don't drink. But
have you always been like that? You've never...
I used to smoke a lot.
Yeah.
Gave up maybe 30 years ago, I guess. But
Nice.
But I think now you sort of, like, James Rain would testify to this as well, because we sometimes talk about, like, how's your throat, James? I'll have him on the phone and I'll go, gee, you don't sound too good. You'll know, Daryl, I've had something wrong with that. And then the paranoia creeps in.
Yeah.
But I think it's just sort of looking after it a bit. But as you get older, it becomes a little bit harder
Yeah, that's what I mean.
to sing.
Yeah. Like you look at a lot of performers, and those high notes have often got backing singers to help them out, but you're still doing that yourself. It's pretty incredible.
We haven't put any, haven't changed the keys of any of them, except I think we did, as the days go by, initially was in a semitone or a tone up. But I think after the first tour, this is going back to 1987, 88, I said, we'd come to the finish for the night, and we'd be doing as the days go by at last, and I'd come off and go, I think we're going to have to try and put it down a bit. So we did, and it stayed there. But the others have remained in the same key. So lucky.
That's pretty impressive. Hey, you got time for a quick game?
I have.
Awesome. This is called.
I took a walk down memory lane.
So this is called Memory Lane. And what I've done is I've gone through your gig history and plucked out ones completely at random to see what you remember about it. Okay, it might not be the show, it might be partying backstage, it might be going to and from at the airport.
Right.
So let's see how you go. Daryl Braithwaite's Memory Lane. So let's go to the 24th of Jan. This sounds daunting. 1976. But you played, it was called Record Breakers, Memorial Drive in Adelaide. Some of the bands that played.
Dirty deeds, dynamite cheats.
Right.
We had AC/DC.
Love is in the air.
John.
Love is in the air.
Hush, Sherbet, yourselves, any recollection of playing that gig, or maybe sharing the stage with those bands?
No. No, in Adelaide, yes. If it, where did you say it was played?
Memorial Drive.
Yep, I remember. But it's sort of vague. It's there. You remember it vaguely, or I do. But gee whiz, I hope it was good.
Well, what was it like with all those kind of bands, yourselves all coming up at the same time? It must be pretty exciting.
I think it was, because it didn't matter where you were on the bill. It was just that it was all music, and we were all in the same, just on the road.
Yeah.
Because we played anything up to 4 or 5 gigs a week, if not more. And everyone was touring, and you'd only cross paths in situations like this, say in Adelaide. But it would have been, you'd all say hello and, what have you been doing? And then that'd be a bit, and then maybe there was a party afterwards, which they were usually pretty,
pretty wild.
out there.
Dare say, mate. Well, let's go. I'm going to go. Well, these are at random too. 1973. I've been keen to talk to you about this because you performed Tommy on stage.
Together, I had no reason to be over-optimistic, but somehow when you smile like a pretty bad weather.
You can sing along if you want.
God, that person you were playing then, Broderick Smith. I actually saw him yesterday in St Kilda. I was walking up Fitzroy Street and I came to the lights and I looked across and I thought, my God, that's Broderick. I haven't seen him in 40 years.
Yeah. Wow.
I didn't go over and because I didn't want to sort of
course,
confront him or whatever. But no, the Tommy experience was just insane. Again, that was...
Yeah, paint the picture for us. So that was at Sydney Mire Music Bowl. You performed with, Billy Thorpe as well. Like
no, it's Doug Parkinson, all the people really that were in that time playing and performing were on the show, and including Keith Moon. And then also I was the young upstart from this band called Sherbet, who were in Sydney. So coming down to Melbourne was like,
uh-oh.
But they, it was a great experience. And I do remember having words to Keith Moon because I said to him, Keith, I think, and somehow, I don't know how I would have worded this, but it was like, I think you ought to cut back on the drinking.
How do you take that?
I don't know. I think, because I think he was busting up his dressing room with a chair and stuff at the time.
What?
Yeah. That sort of thing happened, But that was that side of it. But the show itself, the only other thing that I can remember that people might sort of get a bit of a buzz off was, Billy Thorpe was in it. He was the pinball king, and when we were doing the choruses out at the end of the listening to you, I get the music gazing at you. Anyway, the orchestra's going dun dun, and David Measham, the conductor, they had a set pattern and maybe 8 times round to the chorus. No, we as the artists, because we're all singing it with Billy leading the charge, we made it about 16 times.
What?
So they'd go into the listening to you. They do all that. I get the music of you. I hear the story. And then they could finish then. But no, then Billy would go, listening to you. And so off we go. And I swear to God, it's on the footage as well. And you can see David Measham going, because we were so excited and enthused by it that we all just kept going.
I love that.
Oh, it was insane.
Hey, I'm going to ask you about this because I spoke to John Stevens about this gig and I've heard lots of different stories. The Grand Prix in Adelaide, 1992. We had John Farnham, Jimmy Barnes, and of course my mate, John Stevens, James Rain, Kate Sobrano, Deborah Conway. What do you remember about this?
Well, I think I was on it, but it was really good because I think it might have been the year before it came to Melbourne, and but yeah, being in with all those people and John, I think we had a photo together with James, John, maybe Kathy Watt, who was the bicycle person.
Yeah.
Because we drove in the celebrity race as well, I think, over there.
Yes, that's what I want to know. Do you remember that? Because he said he rolled up to that after a big party with you, Johnny Farnham, James Rain, and everyone did the celebrity race.
I don't know how they remember, Matty. I don't know how they remember the parties because it's usually they were insane as well. But that was it was a lot of fun over there. It was just especially with John Stevens and John Farnham as well, and James and Kate, as you said, I think was there. And long time ago.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
What about 1 year later, Sydney Entertainment Centre? Did you play with Tina Turner?
I think we supported her because
And how was it?
really good because we knew her manager, Roger Davies. But she was just, again, what an artist.
Yeah.
You know, she was just fantastic. But all
Mira?
those sort of things, you know, supporting those big acts, it all helped. As long as you went all right. If you went bad, God, heaven help you.
Did you meet her?
Yes, I did.
And
Yep.
what was that like? Was it brief? Was it like you kind of get, or were they hanging out?
No. I think it was because Roger, well, with his artists, I think it's more or less like oh, hi, this is Tina, this is Daryl. Daryl, hi, how are you? Want a photo? Oh, a photo? Yeah, have a photo. Not a selfie, but a real photo.
Yeah.
And then that was it.
Yeah.
You know, because I think he was sort of like just keep your distance, so to speak.
Of course. 2006, it was the return of Countdown Spectacular. That looked like one hell of a show. James Ray, Mondo Rock, Renee Gayer again, Hush, Sherbet. What was it like getting the band back together to play that show?
It was a lot of fun. God, I can remember it now. It was really, really good. It was and we all we all got to, as you can imagine, we all got to say, so what have you been doing? You know, and you know, like to Hush, or who we grew up with as well.
Yeah.
And John Paul Young, and I still see John now, and we always talk about, do you remember that time back in wherever it was? But all of those things, it's when you look back at them, they're just so memorable.
Yeah.
And they're embedded in your head, and you just think, God, we've all had a good run.
Yeah.
Really have.
And when you're kind of getting back together, do you remember your first rehearsal back with Sherbet? Because sometimes it's like you get back in, you plug in your amps, you get the drumsticks, and it's just like you never left. Or was it the opposite?
Well, no, I think it was very much like, God, I can't believe how good that sounded.
Yes.
You know,
yeah.
and then you start to refine it a little bit, but basically everyone remembers their parts.
Yeah.
So it works. You know, it's really good fun.
You did something that was pretty cool, and this got a lot of people excited. You played at Falls Festival. We had Liam Gallagher, June Rats 2, Angus and Julia Stone, some hip-hop artists as well. What was it like getting the call to play Falls Festival? For those who don't know, maybe listening around the world, it's predominantly a younger festival, younger demographic.
Yeah, no, it was, well, when they first approached us to do it, I thought, gee whiz, that's a challenge. It was sort of like I had this burning desire maybe about 5 years prior to that or more of doing the big day out, because I thought that'd be really good. But it never came to fruition, which was similar younger people. But when they said, no, Falls Festival for the 4 gigs, you know, Lawn,
nice.
Tasmania, Western Australia, and Tassie, and Perth. Well, the first one in Lawn, we got there, and we were side of stage, all my band, who were probably average age of about 45, 50.
Yeah.
And all these young people, like Giants and the band Giants and all this. But they were really, I think they were curious too to see, you know. Anyway, we went on under the big top, and we started off with Blues Walking. Or maybe it was All I Do, I'm not sure. But anyway, it was unbelievable. Like they even sang Blues Walking, which is an old Sherbet song. And as we're doing, I thought, my God, what's going on? Anyway, it was a great gig, and obviously we finished with the horses, and the whole place just sort of erupted.
How cool.
And I thought, okay, well, you know, what do we do? But I've got some great footage of it and sort of great memories, because it was like, I guess it's enthusiastic. It makes you feel like you're doing the right thing, and it's not like you're going out of your way to try and capture that audience. It's just somehow it's fallen in your lap.
It's organic.
You know? Yeah, I guess so. So, but we all the band and crew just all came off and went, my God, how good was it?
And what was it like hanging out kind of backstage and that experience?
Well, it was good because I think we befriended some of the young bands, and chat to them and all that sort of stuff, and find out what they're doing and how slightly different it is, from how we play to what they play, their sort of style of music or the instrumentation and all the, I guess the effects and stuff, or just how they do it. But it's still the same thing of being in a band, and they get so excited.
Yeah.
I mean, we were excited, but they were excited as well for themselves to be on, Falls Festival. It was great.
We get a lot of upcoming musicians that listen to this show. People are just starting. It might not just be in music, might be publicity, management. Right. What advice do you have for the next generation of people who want to get into the music industry?
Oh, God. I reckon it's the same modus operandi, obviously, is that you've got to love, music, love playing or an instrument, singing. And then if you, or whatever you do in that music, the whole scheme of things. But, and then if you can find other people that you get on with as well, because that really helps. I think being on your own maybe is a bit strange, but if you've got someone you can bounce off with, and then just go with what you think is really good. Yeah. Don't be led. Just go with your feelings.
Awesome. One more gig I just got to ask you about. He's dancing in the studio for those who can't see it. It's not the same as it was. The collaboration of, the last 20 All right, I don't want any shortcuts in this story. I want to go right back to the start because there was footage of you emerging at the Harry Styles gig in Melbourne. I was there that night too. Incredible performance. Talk me through how this all happened.
About 5 years ago, I was up in Sydney at the Arias, and I was introduced to Harry Styles. I think Dennis Hanlon, who was the CEO then of Sony, brought him over and said, "Daryl, this is Harry. Harry, hi, how are you?" Sort of shook hands, and that was it. He walked away, and then on that tour that he was on, I think he played the Horses once or twice.
Yeah, and
I saw footage of that back in whatever it was, 2017 or 2018. I thought, my God, that was weird. Anyway, nothing
that was weird
happened, and then years went by until March this year, or April. No, March, I think. And Harry was out here again, and he started playing the Horses, I think, in his Perth gig. And I remember waking up, watching the news in the morning. I thought, God, what's that? Is that Harry Styles bloke playing that song? And I just felt elated. I thought, my God, because everyone rang, said, "Oh, Daryl, you're on the TV and you're with Harry." And I said, no, I'm not with Harry. But anyway, I thought when he was coming to Melbourne, I thought I'll go and see him. So I asked Sony, could they get us a ticket? They got us a ticket for my friend and I, and we went along. And we're standing there to the side of the stage about 100 metres away, and a support band with, I think, Wet
Leg.
Yeah, they'd finished. They were really good. I liked the girl singer there. I thought she was great. And that finished, and they played the music in between. And after about 3 or 4 songs, they played the Horses, like my recorded version of it. And I'm standing there going, this is not good. This is not. And then people in front have gone, aren't you the guy that sings? Are you? And then all of a sudden cameras turned, and I just stood there like a dill. I just didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And so that subsided. And then, but I had a funny story. We were up standing where we were, and there were 4 people, young girls, standing to my right, who prior to this happening had come up and said to us, "Hey, listen, we know you're security, but are we all right to stand here?" I said, no, we're not security. It's fine. You can stand there all you like. It's fine. Then after the horses the first time,
Yeah.
they said, "Oh, can I have a phone?" So it just started, and it was really, it was surreal, the whole thing. Even the police came and said, "Hey, listen, do you want us to look after?" I said, No, fine. I'm fine. I'll just stand here. It'll be fine. So that passed. Then Harry started the show.
Yeah.
And it was really good. And then got to the end, near the end, and he does the horses again. And I thought, oh my God, it's had 2 goes. And so he did that. That was fantastic. And then to move forward about a week or so, my band and I were playing on the Friday night up in Sydney at the Zoo.
Yeah.
Had a fantastic gig, came off. And we actually, that night, I'd got the band to learn a little bit of Watermelon Sugar High.
Oh, genius.
Because there'd been talk about all this thing, the Harry thing, and I thought, Anyway, we did it, and it was great. Came off stage, about half an hour later, I get a phone call from Vanessa, the CEO of Sony, and she said, "Daryl,
No way.
Harry wants you to sing with him tomorrow night. If you can stay, are you in Sydney?" I said, No, we're going home. "Oh, well, can you stay over?" I said, "Okay then, I'll stay over." And stayed over with Brad, my sound engineer. And it was again, it was a day that you just thought, this is going to be really unbelievable. Anyway, we went out to Acor Stadium, maybe about 4 hours before it all started. Got to meet Harry about an hour and a half before he went on in his room, and lovely guy. Yeah. And I said to him, "Well, we're going to do the horses, so what about how do you want to do it?" And he said, "Well, how do you want it?" I said, "Well, no, it's your show." And then we agreed that, okay, he would do the first verse, I'll do the second. And then the chorus is out, bang, that's it. I said, okay, fine, that's it.
Yeah.
And then I stayed in my room for the next 3 hours while he got ready. Then he started his show. Then they said, it's time. And I thought, it's like the electrocution. And I walked backstage and I thought, my God, how many people are here? Anyway, got backstage. They put in ears, which I never wear. Okay. So I'm there floundering a little bit going, and they said, do you want anything in your? I said, I can hear Harry, but can I have a little bit of keyboard?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. And then, so we're standing there. Harry finishes the show as such, comes backstage with his singers and band, comes up to me and goes, okay, Daryl, you ready? So, and then he does a knuckles, thing. Goes, yeah, no, I'm fine. Yeah, all good. Can't hear anything. And then went out, and my God, it was because I don't know how many were there, 70,000 or more.
Yeah, sold out.
And I could hear him, and then I could hear dung, 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 the horses. And it was just, it was surreal, the whole thing. But it was such a mighty experience that, like hard to explain, because I just felt the elation that, and his warmth as well. And it was just so easy. It was just, and then it went without a hitch, and then I walked off and left it up to him. But but a lovely guy. He really is. Just the sweetest guy, and sort of, and it worked.
What did you see him afterwards, or was that the only?
No, we went out. We left in the police escort, so we had to, as soon as he came off stage, into his car or whatever, and we got in ours. And there were about 5 cars with the police in front and all that stuff. So
just like the Sherbet days.
It was. It was just, it was great. And that was it.
What is it like to have a song like this? What is it like to have a song like this that means so much to so many people, Harry Styles, the next generation of fans that are coming through, like, you get to see people's reactions when you kick into this song. And, you know, I've seen it at shows, on the telly. Yeah. It's a pretty special and unique thing.
I think, I tried to, when I was talking to Ricky Lee Jones, who was one of the co-writers about it when she was out here years ago, and we tried to like analyse why people lie, and it's just, I guess, images come to people when they hear the words and the melody, and no reason why, I don't know, but it has a glorious effect on people. You know, and I get all the time, you know, people writing to us saying we've used this at a wedding, a funeral, whatever it is. It's just, but it is. There's something about. I think it's got that imagery, and it'd be all different for different people. Yeah. Of up in the sky, a horse. It's all just, you know. But I guess if you could put your finger on it and say, it's because of this, then you'd be writing them, you know, every day. But Ricky and Walter wrote this song and probably didn't foresee that it would become a big hit here in Australia.
Such a special thing.
Oh, yep.
Daryl, this has been so much fun. Like every artist, I have one more game that I'm going to play with you.
On Triple M's Homegrown with Matty O, it's time for...
It's Right Party or Dinner.
Now, this is called Right Party Dinner. I'm going to give you 3 artists completely at random. You've got to write a song with them. You can party with the next one, or the third you've got to take home to dinner. All right?
Okay.
So your artists are Phil Collins, Aerosmith, Right Party Dinner with Daryl Braithwaite. Phil Collins, Aerosmith, or Prince?
I think Phil Collins.
What are you going to do with him? You going to write a song, party with him, or take him home to dinner?
I reckon take him home to dinner.
Okay, yeah, I like that. A few glasses of red, you get some good stories.
Well, I'm sure, because he's written some great songs. I mean, God.
Yeah.
Really has.
Yeah, definitely. So that means you're taking him home to dinner. Who would you like to party with, and who would you like to write a song with out of Aerosmith and Prince?
I reckon write a song with Prince, and
I like that,
and party with Aerosmith.
Daryl, this has been so much fun. It's been a bucket list moment to get you on the show. It's been super enjoyable. Congrats on everything, and can't wait to see you soon.
Thank you.
For all the latest rock news, interviews, and backstage experiences, don't forget to subscribe to Triple M Rock on the Listener app.
Maybe we'll get a photo too, and you got to sign a guitar. And then you got to clean my car and pay my bills, and, you know, I'm just making you do everything, you know.
Where do you park your car around here?
Yeah.